Hey people, I got some top secret Master Mason shit here. I'm gonna try to get this out in time for the biennial of the apocalypse. While the Masons were creating a flag for the new country, they had to follow the ancient code of standards. And being that you're not in the club, they gotta kind of twist the meaning of what these things mean. And you can see it right here, if blue represents vigilance and justice, why is it that the Democrats want to remove the blue? It's like, they're getting into their blue budget and they're having to trim off the fat. And so this 13 has an ancient meaning that was also used by the East India Spice Company, which suspiciously looks like an ancient Egyptian throne, sitting on the power, and was also chosen number of the Company of Dyers, the 13th company, which also chose the Yale and the bale of cocaine to be their symbols. But the Company of Dyers, that's where that comes from, the colors and the drugs. It was the same process to make dyes and to make drugs. It comes from the same place. It comes from tree roots and animals. And that's symbolized with the Yale. Yale is actually just a word that means two different parts, two different animals connected together. The dyers and the dyers. The 50 is just because the 50. It's going to change with the count. It was anciently looking like this. And the important thing, is the size of the stars and the distance in between. And the red, Christians are going to jump up and say that stands for the blood of Jesus. And they're probably the closest with that, except you have to understand what Jesus used to mean. And the white, represents purity and innocence, they say, but, white represents silver. In heraldry, it's hard to get silver color without it just turning to gray. And so the white was often used to represent silver, represents old. And the blue, this represents the veil. This represents the veil pulled over your eyes so you don't understand what all this really means. And according to this old Greek Bible, it was God that told Moses, "You shall make a veil from out of the blue." Boy, it just hit me from out of the blue. It come from nowhere. It was vacant of. There was nothing there, and boom, it just hit me. The vacancy. And this coming from this word ascent. And it grows with 4 to 6 leaves and 1 to 3 spikes. And coming from the Greek name, written by Homer, of the vacantas. VAKINTHOS, the vacant who's, the one not there. The flower grown from the blood of a youth of the same name. The kid that wasn't there. Accidentally killed by the god Zephyr, the west wind. It's where your word adjacent comes from, and a vacancy. And what it means by dying from the west wind is vacant means a clear blue sky, a daytime clear blue sky. It's that light blue, it's vacant. And the reason it's killed by the west wind, when the sun goes down in the west, then the vacant disappears and comes the dark blue night sky. And so his father was Amyclas of Sparta. And so Amyclas means just that, but with this mark up here, it reads is shall come a class. And that's category. Put them in their order. Shall come a class. And so before you take anything for face value of what they're telling you, you have to remember that Homer was blind, and there's no possible way that he would have known that that flower was the same color as a vacant sky. And when they claim that he was illiterate, it makes me think that he probably wrote in the same redneck language as the Bible. So the scribe class was the king of Sparta. And I tell you all the time, this AE reads as an ES, it's the same thing. Amyclas, the ash. So Amyclas had 7 sons. And so the first of these sons, was Argulus, the silver, the white, ARG. Same word for silver today. Argulus was the silver, the white. And we look into him, and they really don't tell us anything about him, except he was old. He was the oldest son. He was old, Arg. He was silver-headed. And this second son was Cyanordus, and that means the redskins, the ort. The ortus is the skins. It's the ort, and it means the skins in the wine. The skins of the grapes that's in your wine is wort. Like this, the wart, end skins, in skins, of skins, from skins, and end skins. And surely where your word warts comes from, which is a virus that only affects skins, 2 skins. The color of cane, the cane ortas, the redskins, the silver, the redskins, and the blue. The load of 1, fat, the leaner, the more space between, the harpulus, the angels up above, playing the harp, and the borders, and many serpents. And so in this ancient mythology, what you actually have is a scribe class writing the secrets about the symbols, about what the symbols meaning, and about what the spacing between them means. The adjacent, and the vacant, and the load of 1, and leaner. So back in the day, and I suspect it's probably still today, but the blue, they were a bunch of freak sexuals. They were into cruel sexes. I don't even know how to say that. Here they call it slick legging. A couple guys slick legging each other. Something you want to keep veiled behind the blue. And the blue was given various citizenry parentage. Comes in many shades of blue. And so old Blue was a beautiful sun lover. And so he was drawn slick-legging Apollo often. Apollo is a sun lover. Naked on the beach, getting some sun. And if you look closer into the artwork, you see some things that they don't say. And it's always hidden down here at the feet. The same in Egypt, on all the writings. You see the big murals, and then on the foot wall, the GH, the foot wall, is where the writings will be. But the artist went out the way to show you that, old Blue is Greek, Greek foot. And Apollo's foot looks more Roman. And, there was no Greece before, it was Helen. Greece is a derogatory term for all the Vaseline they use. And, the blue meeting Apollo, the morning, the light blue sky meeting the sun. And so it seems, that the powers that be for a long time, they've been controlling through testosterone. They've been rising and falling civilizations by controlling testosterone. And I saw this morning from After School, good channel, everybody subscribe to it. Leave the link in the comment. But I had only got 13 minutes into it before I decided I had to make this video. But this doctor's been watching the testosterone and sperm count go down since 80, and it's crashing accurately with that line showing. From 72, it was dropping at 1% per year. And then since 2000, it's dropping over 2% per year. It's less than half. Men have half the testosterone they did 50 years, 1% for 50 years. But the thing is, the rate has doubled. It's fallen 2%. That means we don't get another 50 years before it's at 0. And it's caused from drinking out of plastic. And it comes from the word plastic. And it's an ancient Greek word. And it seems like it comes from how flexible the human is. When I was a kid, we didn't drink out of plastic. I remember the introduction of these 1-liter Coke bottles, and they was like, well, if you could walk to the store and find 2 of these on the side of the road and 3 small bottles, These were 10, they went up to 20 cents. And you could have enough money to fill a paper bag full of candy. And so people throw these out of the window. Somebody was going to pick it up. You didn't have to worry about it. We recycled them. And I didn't notice stuff being made out of plastic till later. Around to the late 70s when I started seeing plastic. And what really tripped me out is how it shows up in the taint. The area between your asshole and your sexual organs is getting smaller these days, and you're becoming feminine. That's what makes a woman, is the distance between your genitals and your anus. The lesser the taint, the bigger the poonanny you are. And it's all hidden up underneath this damn blue veil. So the founding Masons, they weren't reading King James Version. They were reading the old Vulgates. And I often call this Greek because that's what everybody recognized it at. But it's just a Greek font in its old English. And so let me read this line. I just got this word figured out yesterday. And so this isn't you shall make. This is for which see is. This is for which to see is. Sometimes when it says and he made, it's to see to. And so this is, for which see is. It's where I pledge allegiance to the flag and to the republic for which it stands, for which. And for which see is, according to phantasm, it's vacant of. And for which see is, according to phantasm, it's vacant of. Means a tasm is a mobile home, a mobile office. A tasm is a tent or a carriage. If you're a shepherd, and you move around grazing your animals, and you sell milk and meat on the path and hides, the tasm is your mobile home office that you're working out of. A tasm is a home of a nomadic caravan house. And so, when you're on the road, everything in your tasm is what it has them. It has them. It's what you have. And for which see is, according to fit, the fit has them, where it fits in. The fit has them, it's the vacant of. And so, vacant can also be a darker color of the night blue. Vacancy is the distance between the stars that's vacant. You got the 50 states in a vacancy. And so blue, it's the color of thieves. And for which it sees, to take hold of, to seize, to see his, to make your own. For which sees, according to phantasm, it's vacant of. But to it has them, it's vacant, what you don't have. In order to take according to what you don't have. And for fire as, for fire as to a cooking of, and for a fire as to cooking of. And so a good cooking fire, this color here, cockaloos them in of. And so this isn't the cockaloo, this is Lee, L-E. The K-E becomes the L-E. And it's the clothesmen of. And for fire as cooking of, the clothesmen of. Being twined. And busy, B-U-S-S, the double S turned into the Y. Busy, B-U-S-Y. The busy of. And busy of veins from in has. And busy of veins, busy, a lot of veins, a red coat, and busy of, the N-E becomes a B. So this is a B-E or a V-E, and that's why the RV looks like the N. This is the only reason when it's before E, it becomes the B-V, and B meaning in, or veins. The veins from in has ergon, And so ergon, this is where your word Virgo comes from. E-R-G-O. Virgo is the god of work. It's also where you see the end of towns that end with berg, E-R-G. It means it's the working class people. And busy of veins, men has urge on. And font on. And font has become to mean a type of letter, but it actually, means the meaning of that symbol. And the font on, for which C is auto, self, what to chiro enum. What to chiro enum. This is the X-E-R-O-U. This is chiro. And this is the ancient symbol of the Catholic Church. Before Jesus, there was still a chiro, and they were the cherubim. That was the ones who was guarding the garden. He put them out there to guard the garden, was the chiro. It was the symbol of this ancient Roman army that plans on being in control always and forever. And so the other sign you see, this IHS, and they say it stands for Jesus, J-E-S. And in Latin, this is in hoc signa, in this sign. And that's right here, this IHS, and it means yes, and faux yes. And it's for yeses. He's one putting out the orders. In this sign you shall conquer, in hoc signa, for in this sign his ought a cherubim. The garden was left in care of them, and him in the chair of them. In this sign his ought to chiro in them. And then come back and read it again, and you can see, it's in fo, which is they scatter a phantasm. They scatter a phantasm. That army comes in and runs everybody out. And for which is they scatter phantasm, it's vacant of. And for fire as to cooking of a will close men of, and burning the clothes, and busy of the veins of men. Busy, B-U-S, busy of the veins of men. That's talking about a busy city, a bunch of roads passing through the city. You see here, erg, a busy of veins of men's erg, letting you know it's a city of work. The veins of men working. And font on fo in hoc signa, in this sign, for yes is the ones that's going to say yes, your boys, hey, get this done, for yes they saw to care of them. So this IHS, this is the yes, and it means the things you are allowed to do. It's the laws. And I showed before in several languages, in Indian language, the yes means the things you were allowed to do. And for yeses, this is the blood of the soldiers, the laws out there. And for yeses saw to care of them, the chair of them, to the king. And so the IHS symbol is the symbol of the law, and the chiro is the chair. Yes, sir, for yes, they saw to. The saw to chair, to care of them. But over here in the Hebrew, it tells a different story. It says the white man, remember his brother Arg, silver, the white man, and Arg man. And was it practical to Arg man? Was it practical to white man? What will at sign? Use Caesar. From whose? Use Caesar from whose? Has by, chose by CHS. You can see here, chose, to chose of, chosen, or chose by whose at the care of them. And was it practical to Argman, to the silver men, What will that sign uses from Caesar? They're using O sign from Caesar. And O Caesar sign, that was the in hoc signa. And that's what you see here where it says shall be woven. This is usually, this is what they say is Moses at the beginning and never again. But it means to work, anything with the OS. And this is supposed to be in the same category. And this is actually the Yesa. And you see when it says in these commandments you shall do, this is you shall do, Yesa. And it changes the O and the E, or the O and the A changes up between the Greek and the Hebrew when you see that. But yeah, this is the same as the IHS, the Yesa at the cherubim. And so the sign of Caesar is from scissor, fine woven. No, it's talking about, to shear the sheep is the sign of Caesar. And that would be the sign of scissors. You see the pair of scissors, two knives is scissors. And so Caesar is an ancient word, didn't come with Julius Caesar. It's an ancient word meaning the czar. XAR is a czar. You'll see it here. People think this is MAR, but this is actually an ancient X. And with the dot here, it reads RAXAR, the razor, the hand, EID, the hand razor. So in the Hebrew it says they just use Caesar's old seal, and in the Greek it was saying that they worked on it. They had created this. And busy of veins, has surged on, has worked on a font on, for whiches they saw to care of them. And so none of these colors are colors. Both Bibles, they both write the same. They never say anything out plainly. It's always riddles, And for Furas, the Führer, as in the color, for the royal, the Führer. And the koken of, this is a, KOK, and this is a I. And it's coke as in, on a fire as to cooking on, to cooking of. The coke is a fuel with all the impurities burn out of it, the coking of. And close them in of, and close them inside of it. And busy of veins them in surge on, in fountain, for whiches they saw to cherubim. And so that word they gave for purple in the Hebrew, looked more like this, the work on, the ergon. It had an M in there, but there is at least one time in the Bible where it'll say argon is purple in the Hebrew. And if you pass electrical current through argon, it turns purple. And so this is something that was known in the time of the Hebrew Torah being written. And so, it looks like the veins has purple, the blue bloods, a font on, for whiches they saw to cherubim. So the Roman Catholic tradition, they say that this word they said was blue, represents the prudence, consistency, desire of heaven, and peace of mind, which doesn't fit in any of these. So, the white is the old and the law, and the red is the blood of the soldiers, the yeses, the ones doing what Master says. And the blue represents the vacancy, which is the veil of ignorance. You've got 50 states with an equal space between them, no connections within the states to know, behind the veil of who's really in charge. And so it's time for a fuck all ups is yes, which rise to. It's time for the yeses to stand up. And that's what I was reading, maybe the movie before this, about the calypse over here, the catacluma and the ecliptic shall be covered and covered. And this apocalypse, and you shall cover it up. And that's what this was. This was telling Moses, hey, keep all this hidden behind the blue veil. And then apocalypse, not covered up. The reveal, not revel, the revelation. Time to see what's going on. And if the people knew what was going on, they would go string up all their politicians. A lot of them are willing to do it just on suspicion. And if somebody says we shouldn't, they either don't know or they're going to say, well, Jesus said. And I'm here to tell you they done twisted every word in here. They're telling you what Jesus said because they're scared of the apocalypse. The same one cutting out your heart and feeding it to the sun god is the same one that interpreted the book for you. And so, the people are kind of stupid and lazy, and they kind of deserve what they get. And I'll run into it here again and make another movie on this. And I'll show you where the apocalypse and the inocalypse comes from the same place. So everybody, go get your inoculation. Get your apocalypse on. So I thought I'd troll PBS NewsHour with this. I stole this from their last year, 1 year later, and switched it up a little bit. And they deserve it because they about as factual as ABC and CBS and the rest of them. They say what they're told to say. And I'm going to cut this off here. I'm going to go back and finish watching that movie about the plastics, and I'll leave the link down below. I'm going to cut this off here. Good day.